Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Today we're taking a look at Madonna. I mean, who hasn't heard of Madonna, right? But we're going beyond the hits and really diving into a specific period, the American life and confessions on a dance floor era. It's fascinating stuff. It's not just about the music, though. It's about her defiance against ageism and her willingness to tackle some seriously hot-button political issues.
Yeah, this era is like a snapshot of Madonna at a crossroads, both personally and professionally. We're talking post 9/11 America, a time of intense change and uncertainty, and she just dives headfirst into all of it.
Okay, so before we get into those albums, let's talk about Madonna's roots. Where does this defiance, this fearlessness come from?
Well, one thing that can't be ignored is the impact of losing her mother to cancer when she was just 5 years old.
Oh, wow, 5 years old. That's incredibly young.
It is, and, witnessing her mother's illness at such a tender age, I think it left a profound mark on her. It's almost like she vowed to make her voice heard, to reject the passive acceptance she saw in her mother.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you experience such a profound loss at a young age, it kind of makes you realize that life is precious and that you shouldn't waste time holding back.
Exactly. And you see that fearlessness play out right from the start of her career. I mean, think about how she challenged norms around female sexuality and religion back in the 80s. It was groundbreaking.
Oh, absolutely. Her music videos were like mini revolutions, like a virgin, material girl. She was owning her sexuality and pushing boundaries like no one before her.
And she faced immense backlash for it, but she never backed down. She knew what she wanted to say and how she wanted to say it.
Do you think that early boldness paved the way for artists today to be more open and expressive about their sexuality?
Without a doubt. She definitely cracked open the door, and artists today are walking through it, though maybe with a little less shock value these days.
Times have definitely changed. But Madonna was there at the forefront, pushing the envelope.
Right, and it's important to remember the context. She was doing all of this in a much more conservative era. It was a different world.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the 2000s and the American Life album. This is where she really goes all in on the political commentary. I mean, she's questioning the American dream war consumerism. It was a bold move.
Especially considering the post-9/11 climate, patriotism was at an all-time high, and any dissent was met with suspicion and sometimes outright hostility.
Was she trying to be provocative? Do you think she anticipated the backlash?
It's hard to say for sure. I mean, Madonna has always courted controversy. It's part of her brand. But I do think she genuinely wanted to spark a conversation, to make people think critically about the world around them.
And she definitely did that. This album divided critics and fans alike. Some praised her for her boldness, while others accused her of being unpatriotic.
It was a polarizing album, no doubt about it. But it also showed that she was willing to use her platform to address important issues, even if it meant alienating a portion of her audience.
And let's not forget that around this time, she was also battling ageism in the entertainment industry. I mean, she was in her 40s, and the media was relentless.
It was a different landscape back then. The double standards were blatant. Male artists could age gracefully while women were expected to stay forever young. It was ridiculous.
She was practically ridiculed for being fit and looking amazing.
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't handle a woman in her 40s owning her sexuality and her power.
Right. And Madonna refused to play by those rules. She continued to push boundaries with her music, her videos, her performances. She was a force to be reckoned with.
Do you think she single-handedly shifted the conversation around ageism in the industry? Or was it a more gradual evolution?
I think she was a major catalyst for change. She showed the world that women don't have to disappear or fade into the background as they age. They can be vibrant, powerful, and yes, even sexy, regardless of their age.
That's such an important message, especially for women who are constantly bombarded with messages that tell them their value diminishes as they get older.
Absolutely. Madonna was and still is a powerful role model for women of all ages. She's proof that you can defy expectations and age on your own terms.
So we've got this backdrop of political tension and ageism. And then Madonna drops Confessions on a Dance Floor. It's this euphoric dance album, a complete departure from the heaviness of American life.
Yeah.
What was she thinking?
I think it was a strategic move, but also a creative one. She knew she needed to reclaim her pop crown. After all, a new generation of pop stars was emerging. And what better way to do that than with an album that was pure joy and escapism?
And it worked. The album was a massive success. It topped charts all over the world. It was like she was saying, I'm still here, I'm still relevant, and I can still make you dance.
Exactly. It was a reminder of her enduring talent and her ability to reinvent herself without losing her essence. She's still Madonna, but she's evolving with the times.
And let's talk about that hung-up video.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about making a statement. She's in her late 40s, rocking a pink leotard and dancing like a woman half her age. It was incredible.
It was a visual middle finger to anyone who thought she was past her prime. She was radiating confidence and sex appeal, and it was contagious.
Okay, but let's be real. Confessions was pure dance floor fun, while American Life was full of political and social commentary. Do you think this shift says anything about the public's appetite for politically engaged pop music?
It's an interesting question. It's like, can an artist be both commercially successful and politically outspoken, or do they risk alienating a portion of their audience?
It's a question that a lot of artists grapple with today. And Madonna's career, in a way, is a case study in navigating that delicate balance.
Right, she's shown that it's possible to do both, but it's not without its challenges.
And speaking of challenges, we can't ignore the Malawi adoption controversy. This was a huge turning point in her life, and it sparked a global debate about celebrity activism, international adoption, and the ethics of it all.
It was a complex situation with no easy answers. On the one hand, you have this incredibly wealthy and powerful woman using her resources to give a child in need a loving home. On the other hand, there were valid concerns about bypassing regulations and the potential for exploitation.
It really divided public opinion. Some people applauded her actions, while others condemned her. What's your take on it all?
It's difficult to say. I think it's important to acknowledge the nuances of the situation and to avoid making snap judgments.
Right. It's not about taking sides. It's about recognizing that there are multiple perspectives and that these issues are rarely black and white.
Exactly. And I think Madonna herself would agree with that. She's never been afraid to challenge the status quo or to make people uncomfortable.
And that's what makes her such a fascinating figure. She's a complex and contradictory artist who refuses to be put in a box. She's constantly evolving and pushing boundaries, and that's why we're still talking about her decades later.
Exactly. She's a cultural icon, and her influence is undeniable.
Well said. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about Madonna's roots, her defiance, her political and social activism, and the controversy surrounding her adoption of David Banda. But there's still so much more to explore, and we'll be doing just that in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Yeah, it definitely got people thinking and talking about these issues that are still relevant today.
For sure. And it's interesting how that adoption kind of added this whole other layer to Madonna's image. Like you've got this strong, independent woman, and now she's a mom, embracing motherhood in such a public way.
Right, and a controversial way, too. It definitely sparked a lot of debate.
Absolutely. But before we get too deep into that, let's backtrack a bit to Confessions on a Dance Floor. This album was such a sonic shift for her, like going back to her dance pop roots after the heaviness of American life. It felt almost like a celebration.
Yeah, it did feel like a celebration, and maybe it was a conscious decision to kind of reclaim her pop throne. She was facing a new generation of pop stars at that point.
And she did it in style. I mean, that hung-up video with the pink leotard and those incredible dance moves, it was like she was saying, age is just a number, I'm still here.
Totally. She was radiating confidence and just owning it. It was awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing to think about those two albums, back-to-back, American Life, with its social commentary and political themes, and then Confessions, which was pure dance floor escapism. Do you think that shift says anything about the public's appetite for political pop music?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's a question that still resonates today. Like, can you be a successful pop star and also be outspoken about your political views? Or do you risk alienating your fans?
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
And Madonna's career kind of provides this interesting case study. She's navigated both sides of that coin.
Exactly. And it's not easy. There's always that risk of backlash. But then again, Madonna's never been one to shy away from a challenge.
True that. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about her personal life during this time, specifically her marriage to Guy Ritchie and their move to London. It seemed like such a drastic change for her, the material girl embracing British country life. It was almost surreal.
Yeah, it was a bit of a head-scratcher for some people. Like, what was Madonna doing hanging out with the British elite wearing tweed and attending polo matches? It was a far cry from her New York days.
Do you think it was a genuine attempt to create a quieter, more family-oriented life? Or was it just another one of her famous reinventions?
I think it was probably a bit of both. She's always been great at adapting to new environments and reinventing herself. But at the same time, I think she genuinely wanted to create a stable home for her family.
And it was during this period that she became a mother again with the birth of her son, Rocco.
Right. And then, of course, came the adoption of David Banda from Malawi, which, as we mentioned earlier, brought a whole new level of scrutiny and controversy.
It really thrust her into the spotlight again.
Yeah.
But this time, it wasn't just about her music. It was about her personal choices and her actions as a mother.
And it sparked a global debate about international adoption, the ethics of it all, the power dynamics involved. It was a really complex issue.
And Madonna, as always, remained defiant in the face of criticism.
Hmm.
Like, she was determined to do what she believed was right, regardless of public opinion.
And that's something that I think has always defined her, that unwavering conviction. Even when she's facing backlash, she stands by her beliefs.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the Malawi adoption. She's been a vocal advocate for so many causes over the years.
Yeah.
LGBTQ+ rights, AIDS awareness, women's empowerment, you name it, she's probably spoken out about it.
She definitely uses her platform to shine a light on important issues. And whether you agree with her or not, you have to admire her passion and her commitment.
So true. Okay, so we've talked about her political and social activism, her personal life, but let's not forget about the music. Let's dive back into the Confessions era and take a closer look at some of those iconic music videos that really pushed boundaries and challenged conventions.
Oh, yeah. Those videos were something else.
They were visually stunning, and they really helped to amplify her message. She wasn't just making music videos, she was creating art.
Oh, yeah. They were like mini movies,
They totally were.
Yeah.
And she was the director, the star, the whole shebang.
Exactly. And you could tell she was having fun with it. Like, she was really enjoying pushing those creative boundaries.
Let's talk about, sorry for a second. On the surface, it's this super fun roller disco extravaganza, but there's also this underlying theme of betrayal and forgiveness. In that line, I've heard it all before, it became such a catchphrase.
Yeah, it was like an anthem for anyone who's ever been wronged or dismissed.
Absolutely. It was like she was giving people permission to stand up for themselves and say, enough is enough, I'm not taking it anymore.
And she did it all with a wink and a smile. Like she wasn't taking herself too seriously.
And that's what makes her so great. She can be playful and provocative at the same time.
Exactly. She's not afraid to have fun. But she's also got this underlying message of empowerment.
And then there's Hung Up, which is
Right.
arguably the most iconic video from that era. The ABBA sample, the pink leotard, the dance sequences, it was just pure pop perfection.
Yeah, it was. And it's interesting how she incorporated those gymnasts into the video. These incredibly strong and agile young women.
Yeah. What do you think was the message behind that?
I think it was about showcasing female strength and resilience, regardless of age. It was like she was saying, we can all be powerful and beautiful no matter how old we are.
And she was living proof of that.
Yeah.
She was in her late 40s at the time, and she was still killing it.
Exactly. She was defying those expectations about what women should be doing at that age.
And I think that's what makes her such an enduring figure. She's never let anyone dictate her path or define her limits.
She's always evolving, pushing boundaries, challenging conventions. It's inspiring.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Madonna's world, I think it's important to remember that she's more than just a pop star. She's a cultural icon, a provocateur, a feminist, an artist, and she's left an undeniable mark on the world.
Absolutely. She's paved the way for countless artists, and she's inspired generations of fans to embrace their individuality and to fight for what they believe in. And she's still going strong. She's still pushing boundaries and challenging norms, and that's something to celebrate.
It definitely is. She's a true original, and I can't wait to see what she does next.
Me neither. Well, that's it for this deep dive into Madonna's defiance. Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. And be sure to check out our next deep dive, where we'll be exploring another fascinating topic. We'll see you then.